The Illusion of Competence has another unwritten rule. That unwritten rule is called the SMART goal rule. And it's pretty simple. The Illusion of Competence doesn't believe in SMART goals. We don't institute SMART goals. We don't assign SMART goals to our employees. And I know it sounds confusing because why wouldn't you want to do SMART goals? They try to make it easier to make a goal. Why would you want to do it? And there's a few problems with SMART goals, and I'm going to go through those with you right now. The first problem with SMART goals is no one can say for sure where SMART goals came from. And if you look at a history of the SMART goals, some people think that it was first referenced by engineers in the 1950s, talked about SMART goals, but that's really like a loosey-goosey with no specific. So the first specific was Peter Drucker back in 1954. He wrote a book called The Practice of Management, and people think that SMART goals were in that book. But if you look at that book, SMART goals were in fact not in that book. So that takes us to 1987. Some people think that Kenneth Blanchard referenced SMART goals in 1987. And he does make a reference of sorts in a book that he released at that time, but it's in a different construct. In other words, the thought process isn't complete enough to give him credit for SMART goals. So what that leaves us with is a guy named George Duran. George Duran wrote an article in 1981 where SMART goals are in the title of the article. It was called There's a Smart Way to Write Management Goals and Objectives. So an acronym is spelled out in the title. So people naturally say, well, obviously Duran wrote SMART goals. But if you look closer at his article, then you realize he actually cites someone else in his article. In other words, he gives someone else credit in his article for the SMART goal acronym. The guy that Duran gives credit to is named Paul Meyer. And Paul Meyer wrote a book back in 1965 called The Daily Success Planner. And the Daily Success Planner has SMART goals in the book. But what's interesting about that particular reference is Paul Meyer uses SMART goals to make himself a better parent to his daughter. That's the whole purpose of him coming up with SMART goals, is he wanted to find a way to make himself better for his daughter. Now, if you look at how SMART goals is used in industry and business, you see that it's done the exact opposite. The way SMART goals are used in business is your boss gives you a SMART goal for you to reach. Your boss doesn't give themselves a SMART goal for them to reach. They put the impetus on you to get the SMART goal. Now, this brings me to the other reason that I don't like SMART goals and why you don't utilize SMART goals. And that's the acronym itself. If you look at the acronym itself, the goal has to be specific and measurable. Okay, that sounds easy enough. It's vague, but it's got to be specific and measurable. The next thing the goal has to be is attainable. And this is where you run into problems with SMART goals. Who decides what's attainable? In the current construct of SMART goals, it's your boss. Your boss decides what's attainable for you. And then the next acronym, the next letter, R, your boss also decides what's relevant to you. So to me, SMART goals are flawed for that reason, for those reasons alone, because you don't decide what's attainable and you don't decide what's relevant. Now, the reason that I don't like SMART goals, or the next reason I don't like SMART goals, is that I don't like acronyms in general. I think that if an idea is good enough to stand on its own, you shouldn't need an acronym to remember it. And I understand the value of acronym. Not everyone has a great memory to remember what something stands for, but I don't think it's the memory that must be great. It's the idea that must be great. And if the acronym is better than the idea, in other words, if you need the acronym to remember the idea, that means the acronym is better than the idea. So by default, it can't be greater. The idea can't be great if it takes an acronym to remember it.